Hi, I'm Kylie Swenson. I am the editor of EQ Magazine. I am here today with Dusty DiMercurio. He is a marketing manager for independent artists at Avid. And I want to talk to Dusty a little bit about the guitarist market, because Avid has introduced the 11 rack recently, and lately it seems that the market there's an emerging trend of guitarists getting into DAWs and amp simulators, and I just wanted you to speak to the future of what's happening with them.
This is basically our sort of first dedicated foray into the guitar market specifically, and I think it really does sort of represent the new modern guitarist, and it solves a lot of the challenges that they're faced with in adopting and growing into the world of DAW recording. So, I think the way that at Avid, the way that we see it is guitarist needs are evolving. The ability to be able to produce professional music at home has been fraught with challenges and things like that I think have gotten in the way of them adopting the sort of computer recording paradigm. So this product actually is sort of like our way of helping to solve a lot of those challenges. This thing is sort of like a Swiss Army knife of different kinds of things that a guitarist would need. So it's basically a hardware-based signal processor. So it's got DSPs in there, and it's running our 11 amp modeling software that we developed over the last few years. Super state-of-the-art, amazing sound, things like that. But you can take this thing on stage, plug it into your rig, and use it as an effects unit. You can even run things directly out into the board with amp modeling, or you can turn the amp modeling off and just use it as an effects processor, that kind of thing. So it's rocking as a signal processor on stage, which is appealing to guitar players they're all about tone. They want to have a really good sound. So that was sort of the focus of this. The other part of it, and sort of the part that we'd probably be the best known for, is the DAW, is Pro Tools. This thing's also an audio interface that comes with Pro Tools LE software. And so, you've got all the Pro Tools functionality, the sort of studio standard recording, editing, and mixing with Pro Tools software, all the cool effects that come with it. One of the challenges that this thing solves for the modern recording guitarist is having to deal with latency, right? The way that processing happens with computers, a guitarist plugs in, when you're playing a chord or you're playing some solos, you need to have it immediately respond, and a lot of times it's hard to play through a native recording system without if there's any kind of latency or delay, it messes with the feel, and it's really hard to get into it. So this thing has DSPs inside the box. It has a USB connection to your computer, but what you're hearing is the effects and the amp models immediately before it even goes into Pro Tools. And so again, you record right into it, and that sort of solves that challenge. It's got the right feel. It also has a unique input we call True Z, true impedance input. And one of the challenges has been with signal processors and amp modeling of that sort is that impedance really has a huge effect on the way that the tone is of the amp model, of the effects and things like that. This thing has a sort of a unique analog circuit that allows it to basically automatically adapt the impedance to whatever effect or amp model is first in line in your virtual amp. Previously with other amp models, when you turn the guitar down, it doesn't respond in the same ways that like an actual amp would, and it's because of the impedance loading and that kind of thing. So that's one of the other things that we've really tried to solve is let's get the feel right. For guitarists, it's all about tone, and so that was sort of one of the big challenges we wanted to solve. The other sort of one of the big things for guitar players when you're recording is the whole idea of being able to reamp, right? You might record a tone and then later come back and go, okay, this tone sounded great by itself, but once you start getting into the mix and trying to mix it in with other elements in your song, you realize, oh man, it's not quite sitting well in the mix. So this thing allows you, when you're recording into Pro Tools, it actually prints all the settings in the 11 rack to your audio track. which allows you to then go, you can right click on the audio track and you can, and it saves all your settings. You don't have to go in and save settings anymore, presets or anything like that. That way, later, if you're going and you're at the mixing stage and you realize that the tone was pretty good but you should have changed something, you can sort of right click on the audio track, it'll automatically reload all the settings that you originally recorded into the box, and then you can make tweaks from there and reamp just internally, all through the USB connection.
Why do you think that guitarists are really picking up on the amp simulators and amp modeling? Why has that become such a big thing in the recent years?
You know, neighbors, angry neighbors. No, I think
I've had some angry neighbors.
There have been a lot of, you know, amp modeling is not new, and it's been around for a while, and there've been a lot of really amazing things that have happened in the amp modeling world. I think that guitarists are sort of picking up on the flexibility, right? The ability to be able to, I don't have to store like 5 amps or whatever. If I want different kinds of sounds, I want a sort of like a Fender tone, or I want a Vox tone or whatever. You can actually, I think the flexibility is probably a big part of it, being able to do that. Also, just, being able to like mic up a cabinet, wherever you're recording, requires a certain level of expertise as a recording engineer, and not every guitarist has that expertise. So amp modeling, I think, is appealing to them in that sense too. I think mainly it's a flexibility advantage, but up until now, what I feel and what we feel at Avid is that it's always come at a cost, and it's been a compromise in terms of the way the thing responds and the tone is. And so that's really what we tried to do was to really kind of solve that challenge of, let's not let it be a compromise. Let's make sure it sounds good.
And I'm seeing 11 racks and other racks in amp cabs. Amp cab companies are actually incorporating, the 11 rack into their performance market. So obviously this is not just, when I first saw 11, I assumed it was a recording, a tool, but now it's become a performance tool as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole design philosophy behind this thing was it's basically a rock and recording system. 8 inputs. It's a full-on like audio interface, USB 2 connection to your computer, and you can record a microphone and line inputs from a keyboard. You can record guitar through this true impedance input, that kind of stuff. It's got digital inputs and MIDI on the back, so it's a full-on audio interface. But then I think ultimately we wanted to be able to figure out a way for the guitarist to close the gap between the tones they're developing in the recording studio and then trying to recreate those same tones on stage. And with this, really kind of does close that gap. And I think that was a big part of it, was let's make sure that guitarists can recreate that same tone when they take it to the stage. And that's part of why we built this thing as both a signal processor and a sort of rock and Pro Tools recording system.
Thank you so much, Dusty.